I had tried every single doctor that I could get my hands on in New York City. I had went to the Morrison Center. I had went to Dr. Beers, the SIBO Center in Portland for gut dysbiosis. I had went everywhere. I never really had success. I can say that they were really successful in cutting open my body and taking out tumors. They were really successful in burning down the remaining tumors with chemotherapy. It's like very like clear cut. All the chronic things, that was living in that valley of death. I was always there. I started to ask different questions about what I could do that I was not going to get in a doctor's office, whether it was lifestyle or biohacking. And so things like self-administering and self-injecting ozone into my veins in my apartment in New York City, getting an orange, learning how to stick a vein, learning how to buy a machine online, tourniquet. I know this sounds wild and like sort of dangerous, and it definitely is dangerous. I wouldn't do this at home, but I was so sick, I didn't care. I didn't want
sick of being sick.
Didn't want to live. Yeah. I didn't want to kill myself, but I was like, I'm not living this way anymore. So I'm going to fucking do something to move the needle. It's so funny. I booked an appointment with this doctor who I could not afford, but I went into his office and I put on my camera when he walked out, and I was just like, tsh. I taped all his equipment, and I got online. I bought it all. And then I found some expert, some nurse that I won't name her name, but she taught me to do all this stuff. And so things like that. And I really had a shift in my fatigue from ozone therapy. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Why is this not talked about? It must be like, woo-woo medicine. You start to look around, and today there's 3,000 clinical trials where even in the 90s, now this pisses me off, and I hope that anybody that hears this, like, there were people that were dying of AIDS-induced diarrhea. You'd have diarrhea so bad because you'd get these stealth pathogens in the colon because your immune system's so compromised, paired with the HIV medicine at the time, that people would die. And there was this one study that I found. They were like 85% of the people were cured forever with this AIDS-induced diarrhea from ozone therapy in 30 days. Do you know how many people who had died after that time? And it's like, nope. I was like, why? It's sitting there on PubMed. It was one of those first times I had an aha moment. I was like, oh, it's not about medicine. It's a business. It's capitalism. You can't charge for oxygen. It's pennies on the dollar. You take oxygen and you charge it through a tube with electricity, and you make ozone, which is O3, 3 molecules of oxygen. Well, when that oxygen hits the blood, any pathogen, any virus, it's gone. And you're oxygenating the system. So this is something I was doing at home, and I was like, what else is out there? So eventually I had found a red light to work on scar tissue on my belly. Very different system than the panels we see today, but almost like a pad system, or like this box with these different wavelengths. And that really helped the pain in my stomach. I bought an amp coil system online, which is PEMF and frequency therapy. And I was probably going to the emergency room like every 3 months, where they'd be like, we're going to cut you. And then it would either release, because my body would just release that intestine that was tied with scar tissue, or it wouldn't, and then they do surgery. So I got the coil in 2018. I've never had surgery again. I didn't do anything else. I started to have this experience. It was like, oh shit, this stuff works. I just went 4 months with like no hospital visits, and I just flew from like New York to California, back to New York. I went skiing in Tahoe. I was like, this is not normal.